Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's athlete is originally from Hawaii, but now lives in Washington. She started her competition career in 2013 after having her son, and she just turned pro at Universe on November 23rd, 2020 after 8 shows. She is a married boy mom with a BA degree in health and humanity and emphasis in psychology from USC and a BS degree in biology from Eastern Washington University. Her passion for competing and fitness has sparked her and her husband to give back to the community in new ways, which we'll get to hear a little bit more about. So welcome to the show, Natasha Peay. How are you doing?
I am doing great, Celeste. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really excited about sharing my journey with you and your listeners.
Me too. I'm so happy that you're here. And of course, I know you listen. So I got to ask, what's something you do or ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Okay. So I love this question, actually. So right before, I always have like a handful of jelly beans, and not just any jelly beans, but it has to be the Starburst jelly beans. Those are my favorite. So, I have to get that sugar rush so it can calm my nerves because, gosh, it's like you've prepped, and then all of a sudden it's like, here's the moment you're about to step on stage. So, and then it's like, I take a deep breath and I have like this moment of self affirmation where I tell myself that I've worked hard. I am just as deserving as anyone else to be on this stage. Now step out there, have fun, because the work has already been done. So now it's time to have fun. And just saying that to myself, just honestly, it's like a release of this pressure, and all the nerves just goes out the window and I hit the stage.
Heck yeah. I love that. That is so specific too with the jelly beans.
It's so important. And I'm always like telling my husband, can you make sure you get those jelly beans just in case I don't have time to get, and I tell him specifically which ones. I've tried different jelly beans and it just doesn't hit the spot.
That's awesome. So let's go back to when you were growing up, because this was a pivotal and maybe impactful part of where you're at now. And you were overweight, and throughout high school, you had an unhealthy relationship with food. And it really wasn't until you had moved to California for college that you got more serious about living a healthy lifestyle. And I wanted to know what changed over the years. What brought you from that to then caring and being serious about it?
So when I was in high school, and even going back like to elementary, I grew up in Hawaii, and it's predominantly Asians there. And so I was always one of the bigger girls. And when I was in elementary, I was teased a lot. I used to be called like thunder thighs and all of that. So it like I sort of developed this complex of like, oh my goodness, my legs are so big. And then going through middle school, my weight fluctuated because it was like, just going through those hormonal changes. But when I was sad or overly stressed, I would eat. No matter what, happy, I would turn to food. And come on, Hawaii is filled with so many amazing restaurants, and just the food there is great. So it's like, it was always so easy to just grab a plate lunch, which was a common thing that you eat in Hawaii, which is like it's like rice, teriyaki chicken, and a side of mac salad, like really, really unhealthy. But that was just things like I would commonly eat. Then going through high school, I became more aware that I had a weight issue, and I also had an issue with always turning to food. I was an emotional eater. So I, tried exercising. My mom, and I was never morbidly obese. I was just on the heavier side. And I hated, just didn't feel good in my clothes. I just didn't have a good self-image and lacked self-confidence. And I knew that, you know, if I wanted that to change, like, obviously I think working out was one way to just like make myself feel better about myself. And so I started working out. My mom helped me a little bit, but I really didn't know what I was doing. I dabbed into some sports. And then I started dancing Tahitian, which was a great form of exercise, but I still struggled with the weight and I still had really bad eating habits. Now, when I moved to California, where I attended the University of Southern California, it was, you know, a huge eye opener. Everyone was really active. All my friends there, they grew, like my friends in college, they grew up playing sports and they loved going to the gym. And I had access to a gym that was open late hours. So what ended up happening is when I was stressed out with studying and tired and just overwhelmed, instead of turning to food, I started getting into working out. So when I started doing that and I just started noticing how I started to feel and I started feeling better, it was just kind of this, it was just this repeated cycle of I was constantly craving that feeling of, you know, just how you feel when you get your endorphins going from working out and all that. So I got into working out and all that. And I've still never completely reached that goal of losing weight until I actually graduated from college. And so what ended up happening was I started training at the Floyd Mayweather boxing gym. Mm-hmm. And I had the amazing opportunity to train under Roger Mayweather. And he started training me in boxing. And that was when it was like, I found something I was really, really passionate about. Like, I love training boxing. I got into, as a boxer, you also have to run. So I got into running as well. I went from never being able to run a mile to being able to run 10 miles. So that was something that, you know, it motivated me. It was something I enjoyed. And that was kind of how my fitness journey started. And so during that time, I actually had a contract with a company that wanted to do like a weight loss story. And so they used me and it's this big like supplement company. So they recorded, like, they wanted to watch my weight loss journey. And so I used boxing as a way of losing weight. And at the end, my transformation was so drastic that they asked me to be their fitness model. So at that moment, it was that first moment in my entire life was like, wow, I'm one of those fit girls. I'm no longer one of those fat girls. And it was, you know, and it took time to get there. It didn't happen overnight, but it all started with like finding something that I truly enjoyed. And also I started developing that healthy relationship with food as well. And so that was kind of like the beginning of my fitness journey. And I'm sorry, I'm just kind of rambling on, but it was
the rambles. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's sort of how it started, where I really started getting into working out was that during that period. And I was about 21 years of age at that time.
Wow. So you went from elementary and high school being called Thunder Thighs and being known as the chubby one, to then going off to college, using the gym as an outlet instead of food, and then finding the Floyd Mayweather gym, working out with the Roger Mayweather, and then being able to go from not being physically active to extremely physically active, even with the past attempts of dancing and working out with your mom. And then you went from there to winning a competition and being asked to be a fitness model.
Yes.
It all was at 21. Like, this is within like 6 years.
Exactly. And it just goes to show, like, if you really want something and you put your mind to it and you work hard, like, results will come, and hard work pays off. And sitting on the couch and eating, you know, I love Taco Bell and the Mexican pizza. That's what, like, I grew up eating, and my Subway sandwiches. And then, but then I would look at these fitness magazines and say, oh, I wish I had her body. Oh, she's so fit and she's so lucky. No, that's hard work.
Yeah.
And so once I got into that mindset of if you work hard, and I think also being in college and realizing like you have to work hard, you have to earn your grades, and everything I had to do at USC was like I had to earn it. And so, you know, and I matured as well, and I was becoming more aware of what I was doing and how like my actions, the consequences to my actions, like, okay, well, you eat bad, you feel bad, you work out, and yeah, maybe you may dread the workout, but you always feel better afterwards. And so I started living a more positive lifestyle, and with that became more confident as well. And it opened up so many doors for me.
Where did you end up taking it? I mean, you said you became a fitness model. It clearly opened up other doors, not just your dedication to your fitness, but also to your schooling. And I was curious, like, what you've done with those degrees that you earned and what you then did with the career you started from there.
So it was, you know, actually, so like my degree in health and humanity, and then as well as my degree in biology, I studied those science degrees because I wanted to go to medical school. And the whole idea behind going to medical school is like, I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help people, but I was given another opportunity. And so now what I do, I'm doing more like business and accounting. And it's something that I've been doing for the past 12 years. Absolutely love my job, but I also still felt that there was something missing, that I was like, no, either I needed to do more to help others. So I decided to start a business, and I'm working on this with my husband to, it's like a lifestyle coaching business and that's where I want to use my degrees, where we are helping others to make these lifestyle choices, make good lifestyle choices so helping individuals to make these lifestyle changes to make a difference in their life. So like a lot of people, I find like, you know, there's a wealth of knowledge out there when it comes to losing weight and, you know, working out, and it can be overwhelming. And especially now with social media on Instagram, we are constantly, there's just this influx of information, and it's like, where do you begin? So it's so easy for people to follow these fad diets. But then what happens when they are no longer following this fad diet, whether it's some tea or some diet pill, they just bounce right back and they lose motivation. So what my husband and I are doing is we're working with people to like help them make these lifestyle choices, help them like choose, like, say, for example, hey, you can still go out and eat with your friends, but let's make healthier choices. If you're tired and you don't feel like working out, maybe just pushing yourself to do a little walk, or just doing things like you can do something every single day to better yourself. And, you know, we've had great feedback already. I'm really excited for what we're developing together, because it's just like, ultimately, I feel like I have been blessed with so many opportunities that has gotten me to where I am today. And I just want to be able to make a difference in other people's life. For example, my mother, when she moved up here, she moved up to Washington. That's where I live now, from Hawaii. She had high blood pressure. She was borderline high cholesterol. And it was all because of her diet. And people are just not aware of like what they're consuming. Or sometimes what I find is a lot of people don't eat enough food. And then when they do consume food, it ends up being like such high calorie, like a calorically dense meal, that their body just holds on to this food. And then it's just this vicious cycle of, okay, well, I ate so much, now I have to starve my body, and their metabolism shuts down. And so it's just, you know, teaching people how to eat right, teaching people how to, like, you know, just doing little workouts from home, every little thing that they can, things that they can do from home to just like make a difference, get to reach their fitness goals. It's just, and it's been absolutely amazing to have this opportunity to help others. I may not, I didn't go the medical route, but being able to help people with personal training and helping them with their diet as well has been very rewarding. And I'm looking forward to developing this company with my husband a lot more. Sorry, continuing to ramble on.
No, it's okay. I like it because you obviously are passionate about this. And if this is something you're doing with your husband and you guys have been able to grow in the fitness industry together and separately, it's great to then be able to apply that knowledge for others. And like you said, even for your family, and you're a mom as well. So I'm curious how maybe fitness has helped you in these other day-to-day responsibilities, like being a mom, a wife, and working.
So it is okay. So as a mother, it's a 24/7 job, and it forces me to have the structure, and that's what, and it definitely makes prepping for a competition more challenging, but then it gives me that time. It forces me to make the time for myself, but also like my son, no matter what, he's always a priority. So it forces me to get up earlier so I can get my fasted cardio in and, meal prep or get my work and do whatever I possibly can before he wakes up, before his day starts. And so it just my son holds me accountable. And actually he's so sweet. He's so supportive of my competing, where it's like, say I'm really busy working, because my job, I am on call 24/7. And it's been like that for the last 12 years. So sometimes I get calls all throughout the night. So then I need to give my body some time to rest. So I don't really have the opportunity to do my fasted cardio. And my son, he knows like I haven't gotten my workout in. And he's always like, Mom, no, you have to go to the gym. You have to. And he's okay with me sometimes taking that time away to be with, to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. But I think as a mother, I think it's really important to be a little selfish and have that me time, because you do so much for your child. And I think that's what a lot of mothers lack. They don't have that opportunity to just have that, whether it's a hobby or just something that they enjoy doing just to themselves. It gives them that just gives you that opportunity to reset. So when I go to the gym, it's like I'm relieving all my stress. It's my me time. And so when I come back to my son, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the day. And I think he knows that. He knows that, like, his mommy, I need that. And it does, being a mother and competing does have its challenges, because this sport can be very selfish, but I also don't want my son to ever feel that I am sacrificing time with him to compete. So it forces me to, sometimes I have to get up earlier and I'm staying up later. And at times I'm doing cardio at midnight, but I will do whatever it takes to make sure my meals are always prepped. I never miss a workout, and I follow my plan to a T, without my son feeling like he's a burden or my son feeling like he's coming second to my competitions.
That's beautiful. I just know there's moms listening who are thinking, but how do you do that?
It's a lot of sacrifice. So it's okay. So first of all, how bad do you want it? If you're competing as a mother, it's like, okay, you can just, go with the flow and then just step on stage. And if it's something, it may be a bucket list thing where, you just want to compete. Like for myself, my first competition, it was a bucket list item for me. I did that fitness modeling thing, but I always looked up to bikini competitors. But still, even after competing, not competing, sorry, even after doing the fitness modeling, and I was in like Oxygen magazine, Fitness RX, all these great magazines, I still didn't feel like I had what it takes to be a competitor, because I know it's a lot of structure and it's very strict, and then strict dieting, workout plans. And I was a cardio bunny. I didn't do as much weightlifting. I did a lot of cardio plus the boxing, so it's completely different from what I was doing initially when I first got into fitness. And so when I decided to do a competition after having my son, because I wanted to lose that baby weight. And I thought, hey, what better way to lose a baby weight than setting a goal of stepping on stage? Because I know I'm not going to want to step on stage not looking ready. So, and then it helped hold me accountable to, so I competed for the first time when my son was 13 months old. So that I breastfed him through the entire prep. I didn't even drink an ounce of coffee, no caffeine. I refused to have any caffeine while I was pregnant, while I was breastfeeding. So I went through my whole prep, just really like eating nothing but like tilapia and green beans. It was not the most pleasant first prep, but I got there, I stepped on stage, and it was just kind of like, hey, I did it. And it was definitely, I didn't take it as serious as I do now, because I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was just kind of doing it for fun. Now I'm a lot more competitive with it. So what I feel like as a mother, you have to really, take a step back and ask yourself, why are you going to compete? And, you don't want to sacrifice time with your child. So you have to, you're only given 24 hours in a day. So you're going to have to make some sacrifice somewhere. I refuse to lose out on time with my son, doing things with my son, especially when I share custody with his father. So he's not with me all the time. So when there's days where he's with his dad. Those are days where I'm getting my extra cardio in. I am doing extra workouts. I'm doing extra meal prep. I'll do as much as possible. Or when he's playing with his friends, that's when I'll do that. I wake up really early, and sometimes I go to bed really late. And I'll do whatever I can to make sure that when he's with me, he's my 100. He has my 100% attention, because competing is a choice. And I don't ever want my son, I don't ever want to look back and say like, oh gosh, well, I chose competing over being my son. I want my son to look at this sport as a positive thing. And it's something you can have a family. And I feel like I'm walking proof. Like, you can be a working mom. You can be hands-on. I'm really involved even with my son's school and every activity. I never miss a game. I never miss a practice. I may be doing some lunges or something on the side of the field or something to get my body going. But it's like, how bad do you want it? And, some people are not as competitive with competing than just want to do it for fun. So that makes it a lot easier, but you definitely can give your all to this sport and be 100% attentive to your child. You may just be certain nights where you're not going to maybe get as much rest, or maybe you can't hang out with your friends, or you have to just make some sort of sacrifice sometimes.
Right. Like, there's a reason they say there's not enough hours in the day. It's because you literally have to decide what you're going to do with them and what you're willing to invest that time in.
Yeah. And I think even if you're not a mother, just working is difficult enough going through prep. And so this is out to all the ladies out there that, hey, you may not have a kid, but you are working a full-time job, 2 jobs. I know. And it's a lot. Or you have an animal, no matter what, it's like, as an adult, like, life gets really busy. And so with this sport, you have to be willing to make sacrifices. You may not always be able to just hang out with your friends, or, I do my best. And and sometimes spread myself too thin because I'm a people pleaser. I want to make everyone around me really happy. And so in return, that puts a lot on me. But I feel like, honestly, if competing is something you really want to do, whether you are a mother, or you work multiple jobs, like if you really just set your mind to it, you can, it's totally feasible.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. And I think it goes back to your original point of how bad do you want it? And are you willing to really commit to it? And I think sometimes it gets glamorized to the point where we forget this reality that there's other things that have to be considered, and your day-to-day world doesn't stop. And if you put all those things on hold to compete, it's going to come crashing down on you later as well. So
Yeah.
It's great that you're emphasizing have the responsibilities, you know, that you're going to have as an adult, whether that's as a mom, a worker, business owner, whatever, student, and then be prepared to make competing work with those things, not against them.
Yeah. And, and if you say you start a prep and you just realize it's just too overwhelming and it's not the right time, and that's okay too. It's also a very expensive sport. So, some people, like in 2019, so spring 2019, when I competed, like I was going through a lot. That prep, I was going through like a custody battle. I had so much going on. And to be honest, like I didn't win first place once, and I did not deserve to win first place because I really didn't give my prep my all. Sometimes I didn't hit my macros or ate an extra protein bar, or didn't really give my all with my cardio. And I knew that, but I continued prep because I was going through so much at that time that prep was the only constant I had in my life. And it was, just even things like checking in with my coach always made me feel better. And just having something to look forward to made me feel better, because at that time I felt like I could never see the light at the end of the tunnel with what I was going through in my personal life. And even though like on social media, it's like everything just seemed great, I had so much going on. And there were days where I didn't want to get out of bed. And I just cried and cried and cried. And I just didn't know, like there were two, like, honestly, I had my dogs, my son, and knowing that I had this competition coming up. Those were the three things that pushed me and that forced me to eat, forced me to work out. And, in front of my son, I never wanted him to know anything was going on, and mommy was sad and stuff. So I felt like at that time, even though I couldn't give it my all, competing like saved me during that time. And so that is another reason why I'm also really passionate about this sport, because how it made me feel during a time where I felt like I hit rock bottom. And then to come back, like after, 2019, I still did well. I placed like second, third, and fourth. So I did, I did well, considering that, I definitely could have pushed harder. But then to go through and my next season, I won first place, and then I winning overall, and then going pro was just, oh, Celeste, it was the best feeling ever. I felt like, okay, you know what? Now I deserve this.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a great topic just to jump into, is deserving a win and feeling like you're deserving of it or deserving of a title. What made you feel like you deserve to be an IFBB pro, and what made you then decide, okay, I'm not ready to go and compete at the pro level yet, and it's time for me to take a break?
Okay, so when I was going through I'm on prep right now, but the prep, it started in 2020. I was actually getting ready to compete in spring 2020, and then COVID happened. And so I took a little bit of a break, and then decided, I was just itching to get on stage because I worked so hard after, 2019, it was a really rough prep. And so when I jumped into the next prep, I was like, I am working so hard and I've never worked so hard to get on that stage. And then to be told that, okay, all shows are canceled because of COVID. Yeah. That was heartbreaking. So I took a little break and then, reevaluated things with my coach, and we decided, hey, why not just push through to the fall? So when I started the fall 2020 prep, it was like June 2020. And most of the gyms weren't even really open yet. So I had to do a lot of my workouts for my prep that turned, where I went pro. I had to do a lot of my workouts at home. Mm-hmm. And so during that time, I think it was something I really needed, because I learned really how to, what exercises really activate my glutes or certain muscle groups, because I had a limited, amount of equipment. And so, and I got really, really creative. I mean, I was squatting my couch and putting my son on my shoulders, doing whatever I possibly could. Mm-hmm. And so that was, that's, why, to start with, like, why I was deserving, like I did whatever I possibly could. I didn't really have the tools that I did if, the gyms were open, but I made it work, made zero excuses. And so that alone gave me a different type of confidence within myself, because regardless of like stepping on stage, my first show and then my first prep, with my new coach in 2019, that prep, and I did, pretty well with. There's still a part of me that, I still flash back to when I was younger and being teased. So I was like, mm-hmm. I'm not really deserving to be up here, and, dealing with body dysmorphia. And there's so many things that, I don't think people realize when they're, teasing other kids or, other people, how much of an effect it can have on you long term. And so it was, I'm still at that point, in summer 2020, when working out and everything, and just really being forced to like get creative. It was just, like I knew right then, I was like, I'm doing whatever I can to make this fall season. So gyms finally opened. And I mean, I never appreciated a gym so much. And so once I started, my first show was Night of Champions in Spokane, Washington in October. And what was interesting about this season, with wellness, wellness was new in 2020 in the United States. And it was something my coach was pushing for. And I thought, hey, I'm going to be perfect for wellness, because you remember I was teased, I had thunder thighs, and certain things don't change no matter how much I have bigger legs. I'm quad dominant. So we thought wellness was going to be my division. So I was actually training for wellness. And then, because it's nice when you can do more than one division. So you can make the most out of that competition. So wellness was that first, and placed first, then went for overall and didn't get overall. And I was kind of shocked, because I'm like, wait, what? I have big legs, like, kind of, and it was a new division in this region and everywhere in the US. And so it's like, okay, well, I don't really know, we're still learning what the judges want. And so after that, it was bikini, placed first in bikini. And then I ended up winning overall in bikini. Celeste, I was like, oh my, what? Thunder Thigh Girl wins overall in bikini? So it was that moment where I was like, you know what? Hey, I may not be the smallest girl on stage. I naturally carry more muscle. That's just my genetics. That's the way my body works. I don't do any quad exercises, and people are constantly telling me, oh my goodness, your quads. Are you wellness? I wish I had your quads, all these things. And you know what? Regardless of that, I still did well in bikini. Yeah. And then I did another show. It was the Idaho Cup. And that was in Boise. And that was 2 weeks after Night of Champions. And it was the same thing. Win first place in wellness, don't win overall. And then I win first place in bikini. And then I win overall in bikini. So that at that moment, I was like, okay, it's not, this can't be a fluke. I mean, like, it's the judges' feedback. They told me I'm bikini. And they said, even though I have, bigger legs, I'm proportionate. And once they said that to me, it was that moment where I realized, like, I may not be that skinny girl, but guess what? I'm proportionate, and that's what matters. And so when I went to nationals in Charleston, and once again, it was like I was more muscular, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like a huge show. I don't know, and I was most confident at that show, which was really surprising because I didn't have my coaches backstage. I was just backstage by myself, and I had my husband there supporting me, but he didn't come backstage. He wanted to make sure he was up front to watch me and give my coaches feedback, but I was just there alone. And I'm in the room. And when it comes time to like the bikini, oh my gosh, so the room was filled. It was like, reminded me like a chicken hutch or something. It was just so many girls. And it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's so overwhelming. Yeah. But I still had that feeling of like, okay, I'm pretty big. And when I went on stage, and even when I look back at stage photos, it's this body dysmorphia. I'm not as big as I think I am, first off. And, biggest thing is I'm proportionate. And no matter what, even when I had like those moments of like, oh goodness, like, am I ready for the step on stage? When it came time to going on stage, I knew that I belonged on that stage. I was just as deserving as anyone else. And I went out there with so much sass, more than I have ever had at any other show, which was surprising because I'm like, gosh, I was in front of Sandy and Tyler. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what am I doing? Is this really me? And when they called my number for first call outs, now mind you, they called my number last, and it was this pause because they called, it was like 6 girls they called, and then that was it. And it was quiet for a bit. And then they called my number, and my heart just sank. And I just knew that moment. I was like, this is it. This is it. And and when I stood up there, first call outs, I said to myself, I was like, I'm going to get moved to center. I just know it. And I did. And I'm not that type of person. I know that, these competitions are very subjective, and regardless of what, if I went to nationals and didn't get first call outs, I still would have been very, very proud. But I just had this new, I don't know. I felt like just hearing the judges' feedback, and obviously doing well in a competition really, really helps. But just hearing the feedback of like, I'm proportionate, I have what it takes, just go out there and give your all. And I did. And I felt like, hey, when they moved me to the center, I stood there and I was like, yeah, I belong here. I belong here. And it felt good to feel like, when I growing up feeling like I never really belonged and I got teased, and then to feel like, whoa, wow, I am just as deserving as all these girls. I worked hard for this too. This is not something, I wasn't just the skinny girl that can just have like a short prep. I have very long preps. And so it was just, it was an amazing feeling. And I'm not to say, I'm very, very, I'm beyond blessed to have just gone to nationals and go pro, because I know girls are fighting for that pro card. And I think, if you are trying to go pro, I'm telling you, just keep working at it, get that judge's feedback, and just don't give up, because, I was never like, when I first started competing, I just couldn't get first place. And then I went from never being able to get first place to getting first place, winning overall, and then going pro. I'm telling you, if I can do it, so can you.
That is such a great story and a fantastic example that anyone can do it. And if you are consistent, it can happen. And I love that you went for the wellness division. I think that's really cool. And what a powerful lesson that you might think my body type is better for this division, but in reality, it may be better for the division you least expect. And that could go either way.
Yeah, definitely.
Your feedback ended up being positive for bikini. Now, did you have any desire for it to have been wellness, or were you actually grateful and glad it was bikini?
I love this question because I have so much respect for wellness, but you have to remember, like, I love those muscular legs, but not for me because, I just naturally have, my legs, I'm quad dominant. I have bigger quads. And to do well in wellness, I would have to build my legs more. And that scared me. And I had lots of conversations with my coaches, and my coach was like, well, we don't want to fight genetics. If your body, naturally, like, you build your quads build really easily, then, let's just work with your genetics.
Yeah.
But then when the feedback from the judges were like, no, actually, I could go both ways, but they liked me better in bikini. It was like, I felt relieved because it's like, I have much more respect for wellness and I love watching that division. I have quite a few friends that are competing in wellness and even actually at Universe tomorrow as well. Yeah. So it's, I love their physiques, but it's just not for me. And that's another thing too, is like, you have to do like with whatever your coach says, at the end of the day, you have to do what works best for you. Because, I was like, okay, I'm going to just push for wellness. But then when they said that, when I kept doing really well in bikini, it just, it made me really happy because ultimately I wanted to focus on bikini. I actually competed in wellness at Universe as well. And I placed 9th. So can you imagine? So I placed 9th and instantly I'm like, well, this is not going that well. And I expected to do better in wellness just because, I thought like, still, even with the local judges' feedback, I still thought, maybe on a national level, the judges' feedback would be different, but it was consistent. And so when I went back for the second time for bikini, it was like, okay, I had already got to the second call out. So I also have nothing to lose. Let's go out there and have fun. And then I also knew, like, I felt like bikini was my division as well. So maybe I didn't shine as much in wellness as well. Maybe there was a confidence thing out there. But the girls that I compete against, in wellness, they looked amazing. They had very full glutes, bigger glutes than I did. So that was another thing too. I was a lot leaner as well. So that was not working to my benefit. So there was a lot of things that, obviously if I wanted to do wellness, it was just, I would have to take a strong off season, but I love bikini. I am so happy that I turned pro with bikini. It's a dream. It's honest, Celeste. It's a dream come true.
That's awesome.
And now, my coach is like, she doesn't really bother with the wellness anymore. She's like,
no longer a conversation.
Yeah. So
wow. So obviously you're glad that you went pro in bikini and now you're in prep, which is awesome. What was your feedback after earning your pro card and how have you been focusing on that?
So fuller glutes and bringing down my quads. Well, I was working for, my workouts were tailored towards wellness.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I was about it was like maybe October, or even, yeah, it was, no, the beginning of, October is when we cut out all like the quad dominant workouts. I swear I could just stare at a weight and my quads grow. And it is like, I don't get it. And I haven't worked my quads since, it was probably since October. Everything has been more hamstring and glute dominant, really focusing on my posterior chain. And it's still like my quads are still there. So, my workouts are much different. My split is different, but my focus was, definitely to bring down my quads and fuller glutes. And I think we've accomplished that, but we'll see. We'll see when I step on the pro stage. I'm really looking forward to it. So my goal is either Janet's show and at the ending of July is July 31st, or the Tahoe Pro and Amateur August 15th. So I'm definitely going to do the Tahoe show because it's an amateur show as well. And it'll give me the opportunity to actually compete with my husband. And we'll be competing on the same day. So we actually were practicing to do mixed pairs in spring 2020 because we were both amateur. Then he does classic and men's physique, but now he's focusing for nationals and this upcoming show, Tahoe show, he's focusing on just men's physique. And nice. So we were practicing to do mixed pairs, and it was something that I was just so excited just to compete with him because he's so supportive. And honestly, there are times where I feel like I have hit rock bottom and I'm so tired and I can't get through. And he just is always encouraging and pushing me to continue on and not give up. And so it's been amazing to have him by my side through my last few preps. But so we'll be doing the August 15th show, Tahoe Pro together. And I'm pretty excited. And hopefully after that, he'll be going to nationals. And if he turns pro, then maybe we can do a pro show together. So we'll see.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be fun. Yeah.
What's it like competing together or prepping together and both being competitors? Like what are the conversations like for you?
So, okay. What's funny is I have conversations with some of my friends that, their husbands they compete as well. And a lot of people prefer not competing at the same time, not being on prep together. And I personally really like being on prep at the same time with him, because then, if we get a cheat meal, we can go on that could be a special date night. But then also, like, if, for example, I don't get a cheat meal and say he wasn't on prep and he wants to go out to eat, and I'm just sitting there like sipping on tea or coffee or just drinking water. So then that can be kind of difficult when we're not on that same wavelength. And then also there's just the struggles. You understand what, each other, what we're going through. Like when I'm tired, or this week, oh my goodness, Celeste, in Washington, it has been so hot. We hit like 113 degrees. It's been really hot.
What the heck is this humidity?
Yes, it's always dry where I'm at. And it's been so humid and hot. And I felt really crappy. And he felt really crappy. And we could totally relate. And instead of, he just like, hey, you know what? Like, let me do the grocery shopping trip and you can spend time with our son. Or he's like doing extra because he sees that like I am just so out of it. And then vice versa, where it's like, okay, well, you really struggled with that cardio session. Like, what can I do to help you? So like we understand, how difficult it can be. And then also it's just nice, like we can work out side by side in the gym. We don't work out together. Our splits are different, but also like, I'm sorry, it's just really difficult for me to work out with him. Like I can't pull this. I can't, the amount of weight that he's pushing compared to me.
Then you're just like we have to unrack all the plates, and then we got to reload them for me. And I get it.
So it's kind of like we do this fist pump, just like, hey, we try to be close to each other, but we're in our groove, and like I am serious when I get in the gym. He's serious as well. And so, and it's just nice just being there together. And then even like we both have, our coaches are married. So we have check-ins together as well. And, you know, he's great. Like he helps me with posing. He's just really honest and giving feedback. And so honestly, it's so helpful because he understands what it's like to compete. He's really supportive. He will do whatever it takes to make sure that I get my workouts in. He understands meal prep. So he helps me when I'm really busy. Last night, I was pretty busy with work, getting calls all throughout the night. So in the morning, he like made sure like I had my, you know, prep my egg whites for me, just little things like that. So it definitely helps. And it was through competing is like, that's how we met. I was actually, at a show, I was on stage and he saw me on stage and looked in the pamphlet and then stalked me and found me. And that's how we met.
That's awesome. Oh,
So
I love
competing
that.
brought us together. So it's been great.
So when you were describing him and things that he does, you said that he refers to your son as his, like his son. How did you develop that type of relationship and bringing him into your life with your son?
So it actually, you know, I did not have him around my son for a while. And it was, you know, obviously I needed to, you know, I had to get to know him better. And just kind of, it was when I had to feel my son out when he was ready. So we would do little things like, oh, go to the lake. And then he would just pop up and hang out for a little bit, go on hikes. And then I just sort of, when he was around my son initially, it was never like around my house. It was just doing active things and fun things together. And I just sort of would feel my son out and see how things were. And then, you know, it was very, very gradual. And I was very, very difficult because I was like, hey, if you want to be with me, if you want, and because he's younger than me. And I was like, and if you want to commit yourself to me, you're committing yourself to my son. And, and it's tough because it was only with like my son's father. And then to be with someone else that is not my son's biological dad, and just like the negative connotations with that. I was so concerned and, you know, just, I wanted to make sure that he was mentally ready to just like go all in. And it's like, if you commit yourself to me, you're committing yourself to my son. And so it was really gradual. And it's funny because it really all revolved around being active and doing fun things together. And then they started getting a lot closer. And when he decided he wanted to propose to me, he actually asked my son as well. And my son was so excited and he's so thrilled and he adores him. And you see their relationship. They're really, really close. And so it's just, I am so fortunate that they have that relationship and he looks at him no different. And I think it also helps too, is my husband's family treats my son as if he's their biological grandchild. And everyone has welcomed us with open arms. And so that's just been so nice to have. And when he talks about my son, it's not, oh, my stepson. He talks about his son, which is kind of funny because it's like, well, then you had him pretty young because my son's 9, but yeah. My husband's 26, but it's pretty funny, but they're great. And I'm just so happy. And it's being happy. And also this is another thing about back to being on prep is like being in a happy place. It makes a huge difference when you're on prep because, you know, obviously stress affects your hormones and just affects everything, how your body digests food and just fat loss, water retention, everything, you know. It's like I was going through so much in 2019 when I prepped, still so glad that I did it. But now this prep here, I'm just in a really happy place. And so I'm just having a lot of fun. And I think also it's just a different type of prep. I'm prepping for a pro show. And I'm kind of I'm going into these upcoming shows like with zero expectations, because it's like now I'm competing against the best of the best, but I just want to step on stage, get feedback from the judges, and then just go from there. But I'm really excited. Really, I'm honestly going out there with zero expectations besides bringing my best. So I went from that competitor universe saying like, hey, I'm so deserving being up here and I deserve this pro card win, to like, I deserve to be on this pro stage. Whatever happens, happens. If I get first call outs, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to cry. But honestly, I don't have any expectations of even placing top 10. I'm really just going in with an open heart and open mind. I want to step on stage very humble, and because I know how hard people work just to get that card. So I feel so blessed for this opportunity, and I'm not taking it for granted. I am working my butt off to step on that stage, and whatever happens, happens.
Heck yeah. That's what it's all about. Recognizing that you're doing it because you love it, you're committed to it, you've put a lot of work ethic into it, and let the result be what the result is, rather than obsessing over it. Instead, just embracing that process. And
Yeah.
I think that is amazing. I also think it's amazing just what you described with your husband and your son, and not just how you guys met, but how you brought him into, or how you brought them into each other's lives, and how they have that close bond. And now how you and your husband both compete and you're living this lifestyle. And it just sounds like it's very supportive. And I can tell, like you said, you're really happy now. And that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's just been really great. And you know, it's so cute too, because now it's like my son, it's like I'm like, that's my baby, and he is like gangs up with my husband against me, and it's like they have this bro code thing going on, and then there's just me. And so it's, you know, and then that's where I know I'm like, okay, yeah, they've developed that bond. It's great. And then my husband also has a great relationship with my son's father as well, which has been, that's been great. And so, you know, like, my journey has not been, you know, perfect. I go through things, and I'm tired right now. I'm tired. This week has been rough. Today's been a lot better. This morning during cardio, I questioned every second of my cardio session. I was dying. I had my vasoburn on. I was in the hot sun. I don't know why I was running in the hot sun. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but I really questioned, why do I do this? Why do I do this? Oh my gosh, it's tough. This is tough. So hard. I want to give up. And I pushed through, and I, no matter what, like, I'm just pushing and I'm giving my all. And I'm telling you, like, I competing, the challenge that competing brings, I just love it. And then to say that I'm a mother, I work, and I'm stepping on stage, and I got to work this level. I am so proud. And I just want all you ladies out there, especially you mamas, or just people that are working around the clock, to just know that you just give your all and work hard towards it. You may think you're not genetically blessed. You may think you have too big of legs, or you're overweight right now, and you're just new to competing and don't know if you can get there. Like, if you can, you know, if you look at my Instagram, you see pictures of like me when I was younger. Like, I was completely clueless. I had a really negative relationship with food. I never worked out to the level I'm at now. It's like, you just have to work hard, and it will all pay off.
Yeah. And it will be worth it too, because now you're in this position and you're feeling good. You're inspiring others. You're accomplishing new things and goals that you have, and living your life as well. So I love that you can be that example. And you just mentioned this morning you were struggling during your cardio session, and I was curious how this prep has maybe been different or similar to past preps.
So this prep has been so different. I just feel that I know that everyone, I feel like on a pro stage, you just see their physiques, they bring it to another level. And so I am no longer like the amateur that's had a few shows under their belt. I'm like the new pro. So it's like, first of all, I'm like, okay, gosh, like what is it going to be like backstage? Like, how is it different from an amateur show? So I have that all in my head, but then also normally, so amateur shows for me personally, I would just compete in local shows. So it's like, okay, you have these 3 local shows coming up. So you would get ready for those dates. As a pro, there's like shows, 1 or 2 shows every week. And so I'm sort of prepping my body, but only stepping on stage when I'm ready. So that's just, it's so different because it's like, okay, well, we may do one in 4 weeks, but maybe 2 weeks out, if you're not there, we're going to postpone and we're going to do the next show.
Yeah.
And then from that show, I'm not even planning ahead past Tahoe. Cause that's one I'm like, definitely, that is like, I'll definitely be ready by Tahoe. It's just after that, I don't know. So I don't know what's going to happen after that. And so I have a list. I have like this calendar in my office where it has every single show and how many weeks out and all this information and like travel and also like things that I could do with my son. Like I like to bring my son with me to as many shows as possible because just hearing his little voice is just the best feeling ever. And so I'm like planning, well, if I go to Florida, then we could go to Disney World. And then Tahoe, my mother-in-law actually lives in Tahoe. So we're going to do activities there. My son's coming. So it's just like this, I'm just honestly going with the flow, seeing how my body responds because I didn't have as long of an off season as well going into this prep. And I think there's more pressure because you have to bring it to the pro stage. Now it's not even just your physique. It's posing as well. It's this routine. So there's just different aspects. So it's like now I'm practicing posing more than I've ever practiced posing. There's that stress right there. I'm actually working with Jasmine Gonzalez. She's amazing. So I'm working with her on posing and just her critiquing every little thing that I do. It's completely new to me. And so definitely learning a lot. But I think knowing that I am stepping on a much bigger stage where they are expecting so much more is pushing me through, even though like this morning I struggled with cardio. I got my cardio done. It was very difficult. And there were moments where I was like, I don't think I can do this. But I think knowing the end goal, it just pushed me through. And so depending on how I do for the Tahoe, do at the Tahoe show, not even like my placing, but just judges' feedback, then we'll figure out what I'm going to do after that. I would love to do 3 to 4 shows total, but we'll see. Hey, like ultimately, if I could, getting Olympia qualified, that would be a dream. And that is that would be an absolute dream. And honestly, obviously that's what I'm striving for, but I'm not going to step away disappointed if that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I really just want to make my pro debut, get out there, get my face out there, get comfortable on stage and see, it's different. It's a different ball game than just the NPC.
Yeah, absolutely. And it both the NPC and the IFBB both keep getting better and better, more competitive.
Yeah, definitely. On an amateur level, it's becoming so competitive. It's crazy. The physiques the girls are bringing, man. At Idaho, gosh, there was a lineup of like over 13 girls for overall that I went up against, and the girls looked amazing. So when I won that overall, I was just like, I was so honored. It's like, wow, because these women up here looked amazing. And you know what's great through all of this? It's just the inspirational women that I'm meeting is like one of my favorite parts. Because it's so a lot of like on social media, like people bashing one another. And it just, what's great about this sport when you're backstage and you meet so many like-minded women. And I have like some girls that I met from Universe, I talk to daily still. Girls that I met at my some of the local shows that I competed, I still talk to daily. It's just competing is just overall, it's been a very pleasant experience for me. And if you're new to competing, I highly recommend, if it's something that you're interested in, definitely, look into it. I think what's key too is, and I'm going off on a tangent, I apologize, is finding a coach that works for you. Just because, someone says they really love this coach, you have to find a coach that works for you. My coach may not work for the next person, but you have to finding that coach that you are confident in, because you have to trust them, because you need to be able to follow the plan 100%, not question anything, and know that they will bring you to stage looking your best. It's like, if you're questioning your coach, then that's just not a good match right there.
Well, while we're on the subject, is that your best advice for girls who've never competed before but want to, or do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, first of all, so some people question getting a coach because of the expenses, but I can't imagine actually prepping without one. So if you can't afford a coach, then competing may be something you may want to put on hold, because just registration fees, if you have to travel and the hotel and tanning and your suit, it adds up really quickly. So if, finances are an issue, maybe even looking into sponsorship, but if finance is an issue, I personally would hold off until you're in that position where you can do it right, because you also want it to be a pleasant experience. Along with your coach, my coach not only helps with nutrition and my workout plans, but also posing, my presentation, helping me bring it's an overall package, bringing that overall package to stage. And you can honestly, especially now how we were just talking about how competitive it is at the NPC level, you can see a difference between someone who's prepared and someone who's not. So definitely finding a coach that can, help you with, or even if they don't help you with help you with posing, being able to guide you to someone that can help you with that, because posing matters. The suit that you wear matters, just like your overall presentation. And so a nutrition obviously is key. Workouts are key. And so, it's not a one size fits all. There's also that personality aspect as well, where I know some people need those coaches that are constantly giving them that affirmation, whatever you need to get you through. That's the kind of coach you need to find, because there are moments of prep, like how I felt this morning, where I'm so exhausted. And I know that if I reach out to my coach, because I'm at doubting myself or questioning whether or not I'm going to be ready, she's going to give me honest feedback. She's going to, and so I think finding a coach that works well for you, definitely highly, highly recommend competing with a coach. I've gone through every prep with a coach, even my first prep. After having my son, I had a coach, and that was a great experience, even though I'm no longer with that coach. You just, you grow, and that's okay too. But yeah, that's my number one recommendation with this sport. If you're new to competing, because they can give you so much knowledge and they can help you bring your best, because the worst is not being prepared and stepping on stage. And, you worked so hard. So you want to make sure you do everything that you possibly can to bring your best. Because this is a very subjective sport and it all depends. It's like, do you have what the judges are looking for? So you can only do so much on your own end. So if you have the right support system behind you, like your coach and everything, it can make the world of a difference.
Yes, absolutely it can. And now, what would your best advice be for the girl who's on her road to pro?
Don't give up. I'll tell you, even like the girl that won overall at Universe, she like did quite a few pro shows and not pro shows, amateur, national shows. And she had like some like, top placings. And then she like, I think she placed like 15th and then won the whole show. And it's just like, and there's a lot of girls out there that are on their 7th show before they go pro. And no matter what, like, just give your all. First of all, like, like back to the coaches, making sure you have a coach that works well for you and trusting your coach. And if your coach should be honest and tell you whether or not you're ready to go to a national show. My coach, honestly, my first season, she was like, you're not ready. But then in 2020, based off of how I was doing and the judges' feedback, and they said that I was ready to go to national show, that's when I went. So I highly recommend getting your feet wet at local shows, getting judges' feedback, so that way when you do go to nationals, you know that you've done everything you possibly can before stepping on that stage. The travel expenses, just everything. Going to nationals is really expensive. And you don't want to just be chasing one show after the other and not getting the results you want of getting your pro card. So like, do your due diligence, work hard, make sure you're getting the right feedback. You're getting feedback from the judges, working on that feedback, and then just going out there, bring your best each time you go out on stage. That's all you can do. And it can be, at times it can be very discouraging when, you do give your all and you don't get the results that you want. But I do believe that if you keep working towards it, it will pay off. I mean, it paid off for me. I was a girl. I honestly never thought that I would ever be able to go pro. And it wasn't until fall 2020 where I was like, okay, I think I have what it takes. So it's just taking that feedback, and we're constantly working towards bettering yourself. That's all we can do.
Absolutely is. Beautiful, beautiful advice for both people, whether they're new competitors or they've been in this sport for a while. And like you said, you may not believe that you're capable of it, but you may surprise yourself, or maybe one day you realize you really are. And to just keep on going, especially if you enjoy this, might as well keep fighting for it, might as well keep going after it, because you mentioned earlier that your time will come, it'll happen when it needs to happen. And as long as you stay consistent, it will. So I appreciate you sharing your advice and sharing all of your experiences with us too, not just with the stage, but also with your life.
And then I wanted to add to that as well. It's like when you're following a plan that your coach gives you, and you don't follow a plan 100%, and you're cheating, whether you're really hungry, because there's times, like there are certain days, especially after a cheat meal, that next day is torture. Your metabolism is on fire. You're hungry. And then it's like, okay, you want an extra rice cake, or, just like a little bite of this won't make a difference. All of that adds up. Instead of having 1 tablespoon of almond butter and having a second, that all adds up. And you may think that it won't go noticed, but I'm telling you, I have done that. I have been there. And it's when you are not following the plan, you're not letting anyone else down but yourself. And so when I wasn't placing top, placings. And it was because I wasn't giving my all. I thought I was. And I was telling my coach, she knows the truth now, but I was telling her at the time, oh, I'm following the plan. I don't know why I'm still looking like this, lying to myself, whatever, I don't do that. I'm telling you, don't be honest with your coaches, be honest with yourself, because when you follow a plan, you are consistent, then, it shows. And it's a huge difference. And if you look at my pictures from when I competed in 2019 compared to this last season, the only difference was I followed the plan. That's the only difference. And it's like, people are like, oh my goodness, the transformation. No, it went from eating, instead of 1 tablespoon of almond butter, I had the 2. I added an extra rice cake, and I wasn't doing anything crazy, but just little things like that. And I wasn't coming in as I should. And I wasn't on my cardio sessions. My heart rate was supposed to be 135 to 145. And I was like, some days I'm like, oh, it's going to be 125, 130. I was cheating myself in the results. And that's what I got, and my boss is a firm believer in like working hard. It's all about hard work and dedication. And if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. And so when I told him I turned pro, he was like, of course you did, because you worked hard. Before, you were just cheating yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's why you didn't reach your goal.
Your boss is smart.
Yes. And it's just, and so I'm, I have heard time and time again where it's like, oh, well, just not losing the weight. And sometimes that does happen when you do follow the plan. And, then you have to dig deeper. And I always get my hormones checked as well. And that's something you should look into with your coach, discuss with your coaches as well, because sometimes there can be more going on than, just like not following the plan. So I'm not saying like, if you don't win, you're not following the plan. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that give it your all, follow exactly what your coach said, follow your diet, your workouts, and everything, and every single workout, no matter how horrible you feel, just working hard. And that way, when you step on stage, you did everything possible to get there and to bring your physique to where it is. And then it's all in the hands of the judges. And that gave me a whole new type of confidence when I'm this last season, and I'm bringing that same energy to my pro debut. And I highly, highly, highly encourage all you ladies out there to do the same thing. Because I know it's tough. It's a brutal sport, but if you just dig deep, find your why. I know my why I compete, what keeps me motivated. And to be honest, what's kind of crazy is like my son, even though like it can make having a child can make things more challenging. It also, my son really motivates me to do my best, because I want to set a good example for him. I want him to know that he can, if he sets his mind to something, he can achieve it. And I think that energy has just been like, it's just this new sense of like just achievement, even for my son. Like he has done amazing in school, because we're constantly drilling him with like, if you want it, you just have to work hard towards it. The sports he plays. And so I think as a mother and competing, you can be setting a great example for your kids as well.
What would you say to moms who don't think that they could step on stage and actually do well?
I think it's silly, honestly, to even think that. First of all, I think mothers should be most proud of their bodies, no matter how they look, because they carried a baby. And then to be able to say you know, go through a prep and get yourself to that level of, leanness or just fit to step on stage is amazing. And I honestly think any woman, whether they've had one child or two, three, four, regardless, if you're interested in competing, I think you should go after it. I think it's so inspiring seeing other mothers out there. And it's actually, you see a lot more now. When I go to shows, I see like a lot of women out there competing. And also another thing to mention is my age as well.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those young 20 something year olds. And that was in addition to, it's like, okay, I'm a mom and I was stepping on stage with a lot of girls that were in their early 20s. So that was in a sense, I was a little intimidating, but I'm 34 and I feel like everything, stepping on stage as a mom at this age, turning pro was meant to be this way. I am proud of how far I've become. And I think all women or all mothers out there deserve that they deserve to have the opportunity to do something for themselves, because being a mother, you have to be so selfless, and competing gives you that opportunity. It's just the self-empowerment, like that feeling where you feel so accomplished just stepping on stage, regardless of your placings. Being able to step on stage is something like only a few people have the opportunity of doing. So if you're considering it, I would say go for it, because the end goal is so worth it. The struggles, everything. And just like, honestly, when my son is in the audience and he's just yelling, I have videos of him yelling, "Go mom," and yelling my number. And then the last local show I did, and the Idaho Cup, they brought him on stage with me after I won overall. And it just, I teared up and made me cry. It was just like, gosh, like I did this as a mother, and it just feels, I don't know. It's just, I'm so much, I think, it's definitely more challenging doing it as a mother, and it's just extra rewarding being able to accomplish stepping on stage. So, and some women have, stretch marks. Judges don't care about that. Loose skin. I have one of my close friends, she has 4 kids and she has looser skin and stretch marks. She places, and she's older actually, and she beats a lot of these girls in their 20s and that have no kids. So it's like, you can, if it all goes back to the same thing, if you really want something, you work hard towards it, you can definitely achieve that goal of stepping on stage. And there's no reason why, you can't do well competing just because you're a mother.
Yeah, I love that. I really love what you said too. Like, moms should really be celebrating their bodies and seeing everything their bodies provided. Like, I think it's incredible. I mean, your body's incredible before birth, your body's even more incredible after you created a human. It's like, wow, so worthy of celebrating. And then, like you said, doing something that is unique and special for you. I like that.
Yeah, I know. We need to embrace our bodies. And I think it's great because I know, like, when you step on stage and you're really, really, really lean, and it's great. And like right now I'm really lean, but also like this is not realistic to be like this lean, like how I am right now all the time. As a woman, we need fat in our body. And I like having a little bit of, I like having fat on me because I'm, eating like, I have higher macros, and it's just like, I'm enjoying food a little bit more, being able to be a little bit more flexible in my diet. So I'm just not one of those girls that walks around super lean all the time. So like, that's another thing too. It's like, we have to embrace our bodies, but also know that being show lean is not realistic 24/7. So if you're a mom or you're new to competing and you see these girls, or even myself right now on social media, and see like, oh my gosh, like they're really lean. I can't be like that. Like this is just such a small, like a little glimpse of like the entire year.
Yes.
You know? And so I'm really, really trying to be more transparent on my how I look day to day, not just how lean I am. So after these shows, I'm still going to continue to post my physique. Because it was something that was brought to my attention where it's like, wow, you look so great. You're so lucky. I wish I looked like that. And I'm like, no. Well, this is not luck. This is hard work, but also this is not how I always look. So don't feel bad about yourself. I'm not posting these pictures to make you feel bad about yourself. It's showing you like, this is how you have to look. I'm really just preparing for a competition. And once these competitions are over, and another thing like about, being a mother, our plans are, my husband and I, we want to grow our family. And so based off of how I do with these pro shows, I think I'll probably just take a break for a while and maybe, if God willing, if it's in our cards, we'll have another kid. And then maybe after that, we'll see. And hopefully I can get back into competing because it's something I love doing.
Absolutely.
But I really want people to also know that what they're seeing, whether it's my page on social media or just other women that compete, and you just see them looking fit all the time, and that's not realistic, at least for me, 24/7. It's just, yeah.
Me either. Yeah. It's like, what the heck? And you can try as hard as you want, and sometimes it doesn't always go like the way you think or the way you've seen it go for others. And I think it's important, like you just said, to recognize what you see online is one thing, but all of these people have lives. That's a big reason why I do this podcast, is to show like it's not just these IFBB pros, that's their only title. It's like we're speaking to people who do lots of different things and wear many hats and have their own ideas. And I really appreciate how you said, instead of comparing to, a couple pictures of IFBB pros online, just focus on your lifestyle and the journey you want to have.
But, and also another thing too, is like, I forgot to add this earlier, is I know, like I mentioned, you have to be willing to make sacrifices, but that doesn't mean you have to stop living your life. Yes, you spend many hours in the gym, but and that's what I think, as a mother, I am forced to have more balance in my life. So at times where like I'm absolutely exhausted after my workout and I want to just take a 30-minute nap, I don't really have that option. Like the other night we went and played mini golf. In the wintertime, we ski and snowboard. We are like avid skiers and snowboarders, and we go at least like 2 days out of the week. And I will do that all through my prep. I stay active, and I go on hikes, and I go boating. Like I just went boating and went wake surfing last weekend, and I bring my meals with me. You make it work. And that's why I think, like, honestly, I do feel like mothers have the advantage because we're so used to putting our children first, and then everything else just falls in line. So it's like, it forces you have that structure because you have kids and you have to do certain things, and then you're competing. So you have to also prep and everything. So it's like, I am forced, like, okay, I have to do my meal prep. I have to get my workouts in, cardio and all that. But I also have to still do stuff with my son. So it's been nice actually, because it's like at times where I just want to do absolutely nothing and just stay home, be a homebody, because I'm so exhausted in our prep. I'm doing stuff, I'm getting out, doing things, I'm going to the lake, and I'm living life still. And so that's another thing to know, like, just because you're on prep doesn't mean you can't do anything. I do go out with my friends sometimes and just sit there and just sip on tea. And my friends are now knowing that I'm getting towards the tail end. So they're just offering coffee, like going to coffee, meet for coffee instead of going to lunch, you know?
Yeah.
But your life is not put on hold through prep. For me personally, others are different, but I follow a macro-based diet as well. So I'm pretty flexible. Further out, I have a lot more flexibility where it's like I can go to a sushi restaurant and get sashimi. Now I'm getting closer. I only eat what I prepare. I also travel for work. I was just in Miami, and prior to that, I was in Vegas. I travel quite a bit for work. So I have a busy life. I don't have a typical 9 to 5. I do work from home, but it also, my job there's a lot of traveling that comes with my job, and I'm still able to stick to the plan. So once again, if I can do it, so can you.
Exactly. It's possible, and you can still enjoy your life. And granted, it may not look the same as it has, or may not be the enjoyable life you once had, but you can still find joy in it and still find ways to make it work. It's a myth that you have to give everything up. Yes, you have to make sacrifices, but you can also make that work. And if you're comfortable with letting other people know what changes could happen, it's going to be an easier journey.
Yeah. But like with anything in life, whether you're an entrepreneur or starting a new business, everything to succeed, you have to make sacrifices in anything you do in life. So it's like, how bad do you want it? And I do like enjoy, finding creative ways to stay active. So cardio doesn't always feel like cardio as well. And, getting, just doing whatever. Like, I don't want to just live my life in the gym and then come home and meal prep. And then that's all I do. That I think I like the challenge of living life, but also the structure of prep. Mm-hmm. So it's just, that balance of trying to, still have fun, but not overdo it. Still make sure your body can rest. It's a lot, but I love it. I like stand-up paddle for a little bit of extra cardio, staying active, getting my extra steps in, whether, walking the dog. Like I had 2 Alaskan Malamutes, and so they require a lot of walking and just doing, as much as I possibly can outside of just going to the gym.
Yeah, that's right. Making it fit into your life and making it fun.
Yeah, because I think prep can be fun, and it has, with everything, it has its challenges, and life is busy no matter what, whether or not you're a mom, life is busy, but it's just, you gotta make do. And my friends, like, I still get to see my friends, and I still do fun things, and I'm getting pretty close. Obviously, peak week, pretty dead to the world. I don't really do anything. So when it comes to peak week, yes, I'm like all about, like, I want to make sure cortisol levels are low. I'm relaxed. I don't travel during that week. I request that my boss give me that time.
I was just going to ask you how that works, because you said you're on call like 12 hours a day.
Yeah, I was actually taking calls right before stepping on stage for Universe.
Wow.
Yeah, it's it can be a lot. I love what I do. I love the company I work for. My boss is amazing. And I've had so many amazing opportunities and being able to travel the world, and it's great. But it's, okay, so I have a very flexible schedule, which gives me the freedom to work out when it works for like my son's schedule to a certain extent, because sometimes during my workouts, I have to cut my workouts short, because it's like, so basically I try to stay home between like a normal business hours, 9 to 5. And so, like, say during the school year, I drop my son off at school. I wake up at like 5, do cardio, 4 or 5, do cardio. And if I have time, I'll get into the gym. If not, I take my son to school. Then I go to the gym and I come home and I work until I pick him up. And then anything I need to finish up, I'll do. If I can just do it after hours, I'll just finish my work for my boss, like after I put my son to sleep. And so sometimes I'm up until like midnight or 1 working. It just all depends. But then there's days where like I'm at the gym, out of that 9 to 5 work hours, and I'm getting calls and I have to cut my workout short. Or I'm instead of being at the gym for like that hour and a half, I end up being there for like 3 hours because I keep taking work calls. So it's just, I've had to learn to be very flexible. And, on the flip side though, I do have that, I can bring my phone with me to the gym and take calls at the gym. I don't have someone looking over my shoulder, making sure I'm at my desk, So it's like, has the positives, but then, those 2 a.m. work calls, and I'm like, hi, yes, okay, no problem. And I don't mind any of those calls. It's just like, I'm a mother, so I sleep normal hours, and my boss doesn't. So he has an idea at 2 a.m, and then he reaches out to me, and then we get working on this idea. And so
what's one of the craziest ideas you've had to get to work on?
Honestly, that's a tough one. It's just, my boss is very spontaneous, and you just never know what to expect. And that's just a great thing. It's like, I've been working with him for like 12 years now, and you just never know what you're going to get, like, to expect. It's like one day it's honestly, Celeste, it's always something different. And it's always he keeps things very exciting. Work is always very exciting. It's always very challenging. I do so many different things within the company. So there's never a dull moment with my job. It definitely keeps me busy, and it's a job that I can just constantly do around the clock. So I am blessed to have the opportunity to have a flexible schedule. So for those that have a more structured schedule and are thinking, oh, well, she's lucky because, she doesn't have to, be in an office during these times. So that's why I can compete. I still have to deal with getting calls all throughout the night, and still have to wake up bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to be a mom, help my son. Also, I still have to get my workouts in, and I still have to work normal the next day. So it's just like, there's a flip side to everything. And I think no matter what your situation is, if you really want to do it, if you really want to compete, you're going to make it work.
Yeah.
No excuses is how I feel. If you start making excuses, it won't happen.
Yeah. You've lost already.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to say you can't come back, but if you get in the habit of excuse making, it's more difficult to get out of it. But if you say to yourself, this is my commitment, this is my standard, and you uphold that commitment and standard to yourself day after day, week after week, etc., you're going to have an easier time doing that. Now, if you find yourself going back on your word, going back on your commitments, we need to take a step back and go, okay, well, what's really going on? What's actually keeping me from following through for myself? And that could be emotional, it could be mental, it could be environmental, but like you said earlier, be honest with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You are spot on, Celeste. And I just love your podcast and the points you bring to light. No, seriously, it has helped me. And I find myself gravitating towards them a lot more, like, daily now, because I am struggling. I'm human. And a lot of people are like, oh, my recent posts, and people see that I'm really lean too. And they're just like, I wish I could do what you do, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, just stop with the I wish, and just take control of your life. I took control when I went off to college, I started, it takes time. Look at my journey has not been, I'm not one of those girls that did one show and turned pro the next show. I did multiple shows, but I'll tell you this. So when I gave my all, I did well. And so that's a huge difference. And it's like, maybe it is it's constantly, the sport is evolving. It's very, very competitive. But if you just continue to give your all, then you'll get there. You get there. If there's a will, there's a way. But in terms of like quickly, another thing about my job, when I was traveling, I was in Miami, I went from I would sometimes go to bed at 3 a.m. I would wake up I would sleep for a few hours, go to the gym. So while all my coworkers are still asleep, I would go to the gym, get my workout in, and then come back, get my food in and everything, rest up because I know how important sleep is, and then just be ready for whatever was needed, whatever we needed to do that day for my boss. So it's it was absolutely crazy and not ideal. And I was tired, but I did not miss a workout. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what time I finally put my head down to my pillow, I never missed a workout when I was gone. So it's just I don't work I don't have a traditional job with traditional hours. My schedule's kind of all over the place, but I've still managed to do really well in this sport.
It's probably a really positive thing that you were only positively reinforced for giving your all. I imagine had you been rewarded for not giving your all, your journey would have looked a lot different.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where I feel the confidence I had when I stepped on stage at Universe, it's because, I've seen the difference. I've seen what happens when I give my all. And there are some girls, their preps are a lot shorter than mine. My preps are always long. So for those ladies out there that have long, drawn out preps, I commend you. I feel you. And it is okay. You just embrace it, because it's I'm glad, I'm happy that things have worked out the way they have. I'm happy that I wasn't rewarded for not giving my all. I think I wouldn't appreciate where I'm at now. And I probably would have lazy work ethic, or wouldn't be giving I still probably, even if I had turned pro in 2019, I definitely didn't have the physique to go pro, but just say I did that, how I prepped then, in my mind, I would say, well, hey, I can eat a little extra and still get the results. So why would I change anything really? Now I've seen that, when you don't follow a plan, when you cheat, what have the results there, you don't win first place, you don't do well, versus when you do follow the plan, you give your all, and then what happens? And I'm so happy. I'm proud of every placings. I'm proud of even wellness, not winning overall, not getting first call outs, just this whole journey. I'm just proud of how far I've come, because I know that if looking back to when I was in high school or elementary, never in 1,000 years would I have thought I would be the fit girl. I was always the fat girl. So just getting this far is just an accomplishment in itself. And then also the journey of, I've learned so much, or, hey, when you do work hard towards something, look how you're rewarded. Mm-hmm. And so it's just been a great experience. And I'm so excited to see what happens whether it's ending of July, August 15th, whenever I decide to step on stage for my pro debut. Really excited, as long as I have my Starburst jelly beans.
Yes.
I need those. They're so good.
Oh, that's awesome.
As long as that, I'm happy. As long as I have those. And I'll tell you, because I get the really big bag. You know how many girls at Universe were like hounding me for those jelly beans? So I was like, I just was like, passing out candy backstage before stepping on stage. And that was a great way, to actually get to know a lot of girls. And that's another thing too. When before I step on stage, everyone's really nervous. And I think one way I also get the nerves out is just start talking to the girls, encouraging them. Like, you look great. Oh, I love your bikini. Oh my goodness, girl, go out there and give it your all. And I've always done that at every single show, because, you see, sometimes there can be this energy of just everyone staring at each other, and, you're like half naked and you're just like observing all these other girls' bodies, like, cause you're going up against them. So I always just find relax, talk to the girls around you, have fun. And it helps. And then when I did that, and then when you're on stage with them, posing next to them, it becomes actually pretty fun.
Yeah, it's so fun. And I also think if you have something that gets your nerves out, or you get in your little routine, like you found for yourself what makes you feel your best backstage, stick with it until it doesn't work, like let that be your go-to thing. And, obviously be open to changes. But I like how you said that. And that's a great suggestion too, just talking to other girls and connecting with them and being open to that. And of course, there's going to be girls who listen to this episode and want to connect with you. So to kind of wrap things up, how can they get in touch with you or just work with you?
Yeah. So, on Instagram, that is a great way. I love interacting with other women, whether or not if you're just on a fitness journey or you're a bikini competitor. And my Instagram name is Natasha_Peay, and that's spelled NATASHA_. And then my last name is PEAY. So that's my Instagram. If you have any questions, I am an open book, and I love sharing and just encouraging other women, because I feel like we need to support one another. I love what you're doing, Celeste, with this podcast.
Thank you.
It's so positive, and we need more of that. Especially, with, like we were talking about before, with social media, how people put on this facade. Like, if you have questions or really want to see like other pictures that I may have not posted about like how I look at the beginning of prep, that I may have, hey, I'm more than happy to show you. If that can like motivate you, encourage you, or whatever, just reach out to me if you have any questions. You want to know more about me, if you need any advice, just hit me up. I am more than happy to continue to share my knowledge, what I know, and my experiences to help you reach your goals.
Love that. Oh, that's awesome. I will put your Instagram in the show notes page on celestial.fit/podcast. You guys, if you're listening to this in the future, just scroll to the category section and it's in alphabetical order, so you can click Natasha's name there. But if you're listening to it right away, which of course you are, right? Just go to the top of the page and you'll see all the show notes, timestamps, what we covered, all that is in the notes section, which is actually really great too, because if you guys want to go back to certain things Natasha brought up, you'll be able to just go back to that timestamp, literally, because it will be stamped. So you'll be able to see where that is and listen to it again and again and again to drive the point home. So thank you so much, Natasha, also for your kind words about the show and for coming on. I'm so glad I got to have you on the show, and I feel so grateful for everything that you shared. And to everybody listening, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.
Thank you so much for listening.